Okay, so we went over the introduction and after that we looked at some of the projects. Next up we want to think about some general advice on how you should proceed to go through these courses before we dive into the individual assignment. So generally I would advise, work from life as much as you can as a student. Life doesn't really lie to your eye. It really hones your observation skills in another way compared to working from printed out photos or working from a screen. That said, I understand it's not possible to work from life for everyone, at least in the way they maybe want to, where you might want to paint surrealist things or illustration or something like this, where, hiring a live model to pose for an illustration that is a hobby, it's probably not feasible. But yeah, so many of us have to work from photos. Some things to keep in mind when working from photos is that they tend to be exposed for either the lights or the shadows. So one or the other of them is not going to be very accurate to life unless it's gone through very good editing. Even then there's probably some inconsistencies, but with a color checker and comparing to actual life when editing, one can get pretty close. Work from life whenever you can. I recommend, if you don't have the opportunity to work on your own projects or these projects I'm going to recommend from life, then you should probably just go out there, enjoy nature, do some plein air painting. It might not turn out great, but at least you're trying, and it will eventually, hone your eye for color and drawing and all this stuff. You can just paint some objects in your home, whatever you like, simple things, and that will also help you get better. Maybe you want to try something like that on the side when you get to the painting phase. Another thing, from photos, the colors tend to lose some nuance. If you're working from photos and you're painting skin tones, for example, you might lose some of the very, lightest, nicest pinks and some cool nuances in the halftones and all this kind of stuff. So just keep in mind that you're probably going to get something like an average flesh tone when you look at a photo. There's usually not much variation going on there. One way to remedy this when you're not working from life is to actually look at master paintings. If you look back at something from the 19th century or before that, none of the color is from photos because, they didn't have color photos back then. So everything is from life or experience, which means basically that they're very good references to paint from. And you can then eventually bring those into your paintings even if you're working from photos. And if you get the chance to work on some long poses at some studio near you, do take it up. It's really worth it. Even if you don't produce anything beautiful to look at, it's like, eating your vegetables or brushing your teeth. Like, no one maybe likes them as a kid, but they're very beneficial for you. Well, enough ranting about that subject. Work from life if you can, work from photos, don't feel bad about it. It's a big debate, whatever works. It's better to paint from photos than not paint at all, in my opinion. I paint from photos all the time. It's maybe not something to be proud of in some circles, but who cares? On to the next topic of this video, which is a very important one. It's how you can check your work when you're working through this course by yourself. One important thing is you tend to zone in when you work. You really focus on one thing and time just passes and you kind of start noodling around things and you're not even sure what you're working on anymore. You might just be kind of scratching and thinking about something else, and that's not good, obviously. We want to be very intent on what we're doing. So take breaks every 20 minutes or so, use the Pomodoro timer or whatever is kind of the nice, focus time you can maintain. For me, it's like around 45 minutes when I kind of snap out of it and realize I'm a bit tired, so I need to look out the window or make a cup of tea or something like this. For me, it's about that. For you, it might be different. I've heard some people use 90-minute timers and they must really work well. That sounds very productive if they can focus for that long. Every time you take a break, do remember you shouldn't be looking at your work during that time, because having a fresh eye to your work is very important. You will notice it immediately when you come back. Some errors will be screaming at you. This happens every time you come back to your work. I guarantee it. You come back to it and you're like, that ear is huge, that eye is too low. How did I even get to that point? Things like this. And they become very obvious after you take a small break. Another thing to help avoid this is you can step back during your work, take a look from far away. Things that might help you is, for example, behind this camera right here, I have a mirror. I can, get a little bit more distance in this room that is, only a couple of meters wide. So that helps a little bit. Something you can also do is have a reducing glass. Some people use that where it's like a reverse magnification glass where it makes the subject very small. It's like you're looking at it from across the room when you use that. So you can really get the full big picture when you're looking. You could also flip binoculars, look through the other side where it reduces the size. You can use your phone, take a camera picture. Your screen is really small actually, so you can just kind of get a view from afar like that. Mind that the phone does change colors and contrast and all that kind of stuff, so don't rely on it for assessing color or anything like this, because it's always gonna shift it to one way or another. But for big proportions and drawing errors and stuff like this, huge value mistakes where something just pops out of the canvas at you when you take this picture. I can't tell you how many times I've thought I was finished. I take a picture for Instagram and then I'm like, oh my god, I can't post this, something just screams at me, and then I have to fix it. Maybe I even clean my brushes and it's annoying. So try to take a break also right before you think you're finished. You can kind of save yourself the hassle. Maybe now you know how to spot mistakes. These are some helpful tools for that. But how do we fix mistakes actually? Well, you have to identify what kind of a mistake it is first. Is it a mistake of the drawing? That comes first, of course. Like, is it looking right? Before you make the eye look real nice, you have to make sure it's in the right position. Do the major things first. Make sure they're, locked in. And they might not be perfect at first. You will shift things around when you get more information, since all of this is comparing to the previous stuff you put down and assessing, reassessing. It's comparing all the time when you go through this process. When you fix proportion, you're looking at a figure, it looks very short. You have to ask yourself some questions. Why is it looking short? Well, it could be either that it's actually short, or it could be that the figure is too wide. It looks out of proportion. So at this point, you don't just immediately start pushing the legs down or whatever to make it taller. You first check how tall it is actually, and if it's matching. You check the width, and only after you sort of cross-check these things, then you start looking at it in the way, which way should I shift it? Should I narrow it down? Should I narrow down from the left side or the right side? Check things like this. Don't rush to make corrections, because in that way you'll just compound errors. Maybe next thing you have is a wide figure with tall legs, instead of having a proportional figure. So let's avoid things like this. Another mistake might be a mistake of placement, where you might think an eye is placed too low on the face, for example. You instantly go up and lift it and it doesn't look any better. So it might be because, your brow is actually too high, or your nose is too long, or something like this, where you have to actually look at the other things around it to kind of really assess the situation and figure out what is the thing that needs moving. More often than not, it's usually more than one thing that has to be moved, and that's one of the challenges in this thing. And that's where, having a bit of help can come in, especially working with something like a portrait that is honestly very difficult. There's so many moving things, and the human eye is quick to pick up on any inconsistencies. So color is one topic that we'll save for later. I will teach you to mix and match colors. That's such a big topic that it can't really be addressed here. After these placement and proportion things, we arrive at value. So if you know proportion, placement, those feel nice. It would work as a linear drawing already. Then you can start asking yourself the question: is it too light? Is it too dark? And this way you can start assessing, if it's actually working or not. More often than not, if something just doesn't feel right, it could be a mistake in the modeling not being dark enough on the halftones, and it just looks kind of flat. That's a pretty common error. So as a final note, obviously, I'm biased because I offer critiques for this class. I recommend you take some, but if you want to minimize the amount of critiques you use for this course, which I entirely understand, you might go through these steps first, push a project as far as you can. Once you're struggling, not figuring out what it is, you could also ask help from your friends and relatives. In my experience, actually, people tend to have pretty keen eyes when you're working on something that requires comparison, as we are going to be working on from reference here. They can compare and tell you maybe that something is wrong. So when you're happy with your work, do show it to friends and family. Hopefully someone in person who can really take a good look at it. They usually can tell you that something is wrong, maybe even point you to the right direction. After that, you can then use these steps I mentioned before. You can reassess the work, fix things, and eventually, if you arrive at a good result, you can just move to the next project. But if you still struggle, you don't have someone give you critique, then feel free to get a critique, and I guarantee you it will help you move forward. If there's any questions on these techniques, do leave a comment. I appreciate some insight and discussion. I will be trying to reply to all comments. I won't give critiques on Instagram or anything if you reach out, but you could just ask me something general and I will definitely help you out. Alright, and next up we'll be moving to the actual graphite projects.